Olá a todos, sejam bem-vindos a mais uma entrevista integrada no Festival Internacional de Trompete do Algarve. Esta quarta edição conta com uma programação alargada, com imensos convidados super interessantes e vamos estar hoje à conversa com o representante do Setpura Brass, Simon Cox. Esta entrevista será conduzida em inglês e teremos o prazer de estar à conversa com uma das figuras mais emblemáticas do trompete da atualidade mundial. Dear Simon Cox, very welcome to this interview. It's a great pleasure and a great honor for InMusic and as well for Festival Internacional de Trompete do Algarve to greet you once again in Portugal. Isn't it? You have already been in Portugal last year.
No, this was our first visit like a few weeks ago. Yeah.
Okay.
We were supposed to come last year, but it got cancelled, of course, like everything else.
Exactly. By the way, Algarve is known in Portugal as the British colony.
Yeah.
Because a lot of rich people are coming here for holidays and so on. Did you enjoy Algarve?
Yeah, of course. It would have been nice to come for a little bit longer, but it was our first trip abroad for nearly 2 years. So it was great to sort of get on the road again and see the town and see the festival, enjoy the weather a bit, you know.
So it means that your tour in USA was cancelled also?
Yeah, so we had to cancel 2 USA tours actually. There was one that should have taken place this year, and there should have been one early next year, which has also been cancelled. So from I think October 2022, we should be back in the USA. So hopefully back to normal then.
And your tour in Japan was in 2019?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and we should be back there also next year. It's a little bit up in the air, but we sort of we seem to have a good relationship there. So hopefully we'll keep visiting.
The truth is that Setpura Brass is a role model for young musicians, and as well the musicians that are part of the Setpura Brass are really role models. You are really well known, and you are followed by many musicians. When and how did Setpura Brass started? So
I guess the sort of background is that I was playing in an orchestra in the Helsinki Philharmonic in Finland. Which I joined after my studies in London, and you know I really enjoyed playing there. But I sort of started to feel as brass players that we're mostly just watching and counting rests. We're not always getting to play that much, and I started to find that a bit frustrating. And I was lucky enough to take part in some chamber music festivals, and then I was like, oh yeah, this is really more interesting. I find I'm a lot more engaged with the music making and stuff. So I thought, okay, I want to do more of this. So I decided to quit the job and moved back to London, where I live now. And I went to the Royal Academy of Music to do a PhD, where I was studying the kind of the history of brass ensemble music and why it's maybe not taken quite as seriously as, say, string quartets and choirs and things like that. I decided that the brass septet formation, 3 trumpets, 3 trombones and tuba, which is the same as an orchestral brass section, that I think it would fit the music that I wanted to play the most, which is basically music by the sort of more prominent classical composers. I think that grouping really gives you an amazing sound and allows you to transcribe lots of music for the ensemble. And then So I spent a couple of years sort of working on all that sort of preparation, if you like. And then me and basically my friends that I'd studied with, who by that point were becoming very successful players in their own right, we put the group together and started making some recordings and doing concerts.
Okay, just this easy and simple, and
definitely not.
Of course not. But we know, as far as we know, in England, there's a lot of a tradition, and really ancient tradition with the brass, because maybe the brass bands started in the mines or so on, and in small villages, and so we know that there's a really great tradition in England, but not for a septet, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, yeah, as you said, we have this amazing tradition that's produced a lot of really great players who sometimes transfer to the orchestral world. So some of our players like Phil Cobb and who was in the Algarve, and James Fountain on trumpet, they're very much from brass band backgrounds, but they've transferred to trumpet now. But yeah, the septet isn't a sort of a thing that's particularly associated with Britain. It's normally our most famous brass group was the Philip Jones Brass Ensemble, and they were mostly a quintet and 10-piece. So yeah, it's quite new. I mean, of course, Monozzle Brass are a septet, but they're slightly different. They're obviously incredible group, but they're not so focused on serious classical music. So I think within classical music, I think it's safe to say that the septet is a kind of new formation. That's what we
exactly.
see.
And above all, you are just 3 trumpets, 3 trombones, and tuba. So you don't even play with a French horn player. So it might be, well, I'm a French horn player, so I would say that it's a bit strange, but because many people have been asking if you were inspired in German brass or even in the work of Empire Brass, because you told us, yes, of course, about Philip Jones Brass, but also Empire Brass Quintet. They made a wonderful job in USA. And were you inspired also by or Canadian Brass as well? Were you inspired by this kind of groups to start your own projects?
Yeah, certainly in a certain respect. I mean, I really liked the idea of doing more chamber music, and the way that those groups have done so well in a professional sense, and managed to build these profiles and the following, and do so many concerts. That was absolutely an inspiration. But musically, we've tried to go on our own journey, and start from the very beginning and think, okay, what type of music do we want to play, and how do we want to approach it? So actually, with all due respect to those groups, I haven't looked to them for musical inspiration. I really admire what they do, and we have good contacts with some players in those groups. For example, Canadian Brass, sometimes we're in touch with those guys a little bit, and that's all great. But we're trying to kind of very much carve out our own musical direction and our own niche.
Yeah. And this would be another question, because you performed. I think you created in 2016 this Christmas show with the Nutcracker, narrated by Sir Derek Jacobi. And you released an album in 2019 with this. But what are you trying to find out? Are you trying to read or to reach? Are you trying to reach children, families, the common public, or are you trying to achieve to some achievement of some kind of music that it would be impossible to listen in a brass group, but you know that you can do that, and so you are trying to do that?
I guess, we do want these pieces to sound like they could be original works for brass. So yeah, it's not so much a technical challenge. I think what we're trying to do overall, if you summed up the whole approach to transcribing music, is that we're trying to demonstrate that brass instruments can play serious chamber music. And the exact music we pick is just defined by whether we think it'll work very well as an arrangement, so well that it almost sounds like an original work. And the Nutcracker project, it was developed by Matt Knight, who's one of the trombonists and the other artistic director of the group. It was his idea, and he just realized that the music, or most of the music from the ballet, would work really, really well. And then later, the idea came to add a narration and everything, and the project just sort of developed that way. So with that specific project, of course we're hoping brass players will always find what we do interesting, but also we're looking to broaden the appeal to perhaps more widely to sort of the general classical music. And yeah, obviously we hope that it's also family friendly. I mean, we were really pleased when that CD was released. It was played in full on Christmas Day on Classic FM in the UK, which is our biggest classical radio station. So I think that was exactly what we were aiming for. Is this working with Derek Jacobi just allowed us to perhaps escape the brass world a little bit and take what we're doing to a slightly broader audience. So I guess, yeah, that's what we're always kind of aiming to do.
Yeah, so this is a compromise between what you would prefer to do and somehow what you think the public is asking to, no?
Yeah, I suppose so, but we would never do anything just because we thought it was going to be popular. We always, the primary motivation is the music making and whether or not we think it will work. And it just happens that I know that Nutcracker is a popular piece of music, but we do think the arrangement works really, really well. And even if you know the original, perhaps you'll be able to get something new from listening to our version.
Yeah, I was asking this because mostly when we are young and we are starting our careers, maybe when we don't find out our place in an orchestra or in a professional place, maybe we need to create our own projects. But most of those projects we can do exactly what we would like to do, but mostly we must do what the market is expecting us to do. And so that's why I was asking this, and this leads to this last question, because InMusic is listened and is followed by a lot of young musicians that are starting their careers, and most of them, they want to be orchestra musicians, and they are practicing and studying for that. But in fact, there's no place for everybody, and it's really difficult to achieve this goal. And what are your advice as Simon Cox as well, but as a member, part of this chamber music group? What would you say to these young artists that are just finishing their studies career? And so because if they don't have this they are not able to get in an orchestra, what are your advice? Should they start their own projects? What do they should do?
Yeah, so I guess I have two thoughts on that. The first one is that my number one piece of advice now, having done this for a few years, would be don't get too obsessed with a specific ambition. Don't say, I want to be in that orchestra or I want to do this type of job, because then you're aiming for a really narrow target and you might not hit it because, for various reasons. It might not be because you're not good enough. It just might not be because it might just not have worked out that way. And you're kind of setting yourself up to feel disappointed and stuff. So by all means think, yeah, it'd be nice to play in an orchestra and I'll pursue that. But also have in mind that there are other directions your career could go in. I mean, when I left college, I just wanted to play in orchestras and nothing else. I believed that I'd be happy to do that for 50 years, no problem. And within 2 years, I was already a bit bored and was thinking, yeah, maybe I want to do something else. So you never know what's just around the corner. And the second thing is, yeah, I think starting your own projects is important. Especially if you're not getting the opportunities in other areas. But if you're going to do that, I think the most important thing is that you believe in what you're doing artistically. Whatever the kind of music is, even if it's light jazz music or really serious Renaissance choral music, you need to really believe in it, because that's the thing that's going to keep you motivated to keep working on it. But also, that's the thing that will inform all your decision making for how you kind of develop the group and try to get it off the ground. It's possible to make some money from your own projects, but it takes a lot of time, and it can take a lot of hard work. And in those times when it's more difficult, I'm not saying it's difficult all the time. Sometimes it's great fun, and I think a lot of the time people say, oh, it's really tough and all this sort of thing, and that's kind of true. But if you enjoy the artistic side and you believe in that, then that makes it enjoyable. Even the hard work becomes kind of enjoyable. So that would be my two pieces of advice.
No, and you know, because you just sat down that you would not want to continue in Helsinki Philharmonic, and you decided to come back to England and to make this project in chamber music way. So maybe not maybe, but for sure, our listeners, our young musicians, will pay really attention to these advices, because you tried both of the worlds, and this is what we expect also to do to give to our listeners, to our followers, is this kind of experience. And we are very, very welcome for your interview and for your advices, for your history, for what you have said today. And so we wish the best of the successes to Setpura Brass, and as well for you, Simon Cox. Really, we are really thankful. Obrigado a todos por nos terem ouvido nesta entrevista que integra a 4ª edição do FITA, Festival Internacional de Trompete do Algarve. Estivemos à conversa com Simon Cox, do Setpura Brass. Muito obrigado pela vossa atenção e por nos seguirem. Contem connosco para mais festivais. Obrigado.